want to die with a dick on my face.
Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome back once again. Today we're going to be taking a look at a quiet carry knife. The very first time I've had this brand under my lens and on my channel to share with you. And for that, I'd like to thank my buddy Michael Yates, who sent this in. We talk fairly often and talk about knives, and he asks for suggestions from time to time on certain knives that he's interested in. And we share our commentary back and forth about different knives that we've just gotten into, that we're thinking about getting into. And this was one that actually piqued my interest as soon as he offered it to me to be able to review. Not so much this model in particular, but definitely the brand, because the brand has gotten a lot of recognition over the past couple of years, and people really seem to be liking their knives when you hear them talk about them on various groups and forums and all that kind of good stuff. So I figured there must be something to it. There must be something really great here. I've actually reached out to Quiet Carry in the past and asked if I could review one of their knives. I forget which one it was right now, but it was one that came out in this past year, and it looked really, really good. It was definitely right up my alley, the kind of style that I enjoy. And I don't believe I ever heard anything back. Don't really remember. But whatever the situation was, that didn't pan out. And this is the very first time I'm getting a chance to take a close-up look at one of their knives and fondle it and handle it and see what I think of it. So let's explore this together. We're going to start things off with the TLDW, pros and cons in sort of rapid-fire succession. Then we'll get into the specs, and then finally at the end I'll wrap it up with my personal thoughts and the actual review. So first things first, this is the IQL, and as stated from their website, it says the original IQ from Quiet Carry is an ultra-slim, lightweight, and discreet carry. Here is a larger scaled-up version. This knurled handle IQ comes in an all-black handle and a black PVD blade and is designed for everyday use. Now, they have it currently listed on their website. This is the last day of November 2023. They have it listed at $192, but that looks to be a sale price. And I believe in parentheses before that, it had a price somewhere close to $400, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. I apologize. I'll try to double check when I go to edit this video so that I can put up the correct price that it showed on their website. So it looks like a sale down to $192, and they're offering Sezzle, so you get 4 payments of $48. So that's pretty cool. Very, very affordable. And I think just by handling it here, at $192, I'd say that that's kind of a no-brainer. Is it worth the price that I have in my head, which was high 300s, almost $400? That remains to be seen, and we'll figure that out together. So let's start things off with the TLDW, the pros. Number one, it's a really nice, slim design. Very sleek, very, very easy to carry. Now, it's a little bit slimmer than I typically like, but that's not to say that I've never had anything this slim before. As a matter of fact, there was a time, 10 years ago, I guess, was when they were all the rage, when the Burnley Quakens were really, really popular, as well as the Boker production versions of Burnley's Quakens. And they weren't much taller than this. They were a little bit longer from what I recall. And I had a few of them, and I really, really, really liked them. This blade shape doesn't do as much for me, so I think that kind of takes away from my personal wow factor when it comes to this particular knife. But it feels really nice in the hand, and it would be very easy to carry. Certainly not a pocket hog in any way, shape, or form, being as slim and as thin as it is. Second pro is going to be the knurling, the micro milling that they have done on the presentation side of the frame. I really like this. It's done well enough that you can feel it. It has a nice tactility to it. However, it is not going to be a finger shredder. It's not going to tear up the material in the pocket of your pants. It's actually fairly smooth, but it has a nice feel to it. And as you push into it, like good jimping would be on a blade, which this does not have, as you push into it, it allows it to grip your skin pretty well. So it actually feels really, really nice. I know there are some people out there, when they look at a flipper-only knife, they tend to not look at a knife that may be a smooth satin or smooth bead-blasted finish, because the way they hold their knife, as they're going to deploy the flipper, their thumb might slip up and it might move in their hand like that. But with this really nice milling that they've done in the frame, it has a nice feel to it. And obviously the real reason for it, besides it looking nice, is so that if you're doing any type of particular hard cutting or stabbing or whatever, that your hand is not going to slip and slide up into the blade area. They did a nice job on that. And another pro for me is also going to have to do with the frame, and that's going to be the gentle convex contouring that they've done on the frame. Because when you look at this knife from a distance, it kind of looks like any other slab-sided titanium frame lock, right? But it's not. It's got a nice little bit of contouring that makes it quite comfortable in the hands. They've done a nice job with a neutral handle, making it quite ergonomic. I would have preferred to have seen a finger choil up in here to make it a bit more ergonomic, but as far as a straight back handle goes, they did a good job because they took care of it on the outsides of the frame. The next pro for me is going to be the finish. I like the all black. Looks really clean, looks really good. I think that it would have looked good in a myriad of different combinations. Honestly, it could have been all stonewashed titanium and blade, and it would have looked great. I think they could have done some anodized colors, and it would have looked good. It's a handsome design overall that I think the black gives it a more slimming look. So I think it works all the way around visually. And then from there, I really, really, really like the detent. It's not an overly strong detent where you feel like it's a finger breaker, but it's also not too light either. So because of the crispness of this detent, the action is really nice. It rips open like a rocket, does a fantastic job of getting open quick, and it has a nice lockup sound. Very solid thunk to it. There's no real harmonics besides the thunk when it hits the blade stop, but it sounds good, it feels good. Now for the cons. First, as I mentioned, I really would have liked to have seen a finger choil here, and I'll give you a quick representation of what that would actually look like. Those of you that know my hamachi by custom maker Pohan Lu, you know that it is also a straight-bodied knife as well, but on mine, he put in a finger choil that was not available on any of the other knives. And I've owned and also held several other hamachis that didn't have the finger choil, and it really does make a huge difference in how this knife fits in the hand. So that's where I look at this and go, man, that would have been a really nice little ergonomic improvement that could have been made. So yeah, for me, I would have liked to have had that one extra little thing. It also would have made it easier to get into the lock as well, because you would have had a little more area cut away on the presentation side to access that lock bar. Next con. For me personally, it is a little too slim to really be comfortable with because I have very large hands. So I'll say this, if you have large to extra large hands, meaning you wear large to extra large size gloves, this may feel a little bit puny to you. Now that's just a size thing. It doesn't mean the design is bad, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the brand or anything wrong with the knife inherently. It's just a size thing. Now this is the larger of the IQs as I understand it. So I guess IQL stands for IQ long. I don't know. But it is the scaled up version. So the smaller version, may even be a little bit more difficult for somebody with large hands. The next con, I think a knife like this, as well designed and clearly well thought out as it was, could have really benefited from a secondary or even third way of deploying the blade. Now, because they're doing kind of a Quaken style here where the blade is completely flush with the frame, which I do like. That could have gone into the Pro column. You can't have anything to reverse flick off of. There's no thumb stud or fuller or anything like that. That's fine. I love flipper knives. I'm fine with it just being flipper only. But I think in this day and age, people are expecting just a little bit more because of the popularity of multiple deployment knives that are out there. So as much as I don't like a front flipper, I think it would have opened up a lot more customers to them if it had had the standard flipper tab and it also had a front flipper extension on there. I think a lot more people might have gotten into it. Even if they would have added jimping, which it really should have, even though this is more of a gentleman's EDC. It's not a true gentleman's knife because it has a pocket clip and it's not quite small enough to be a gentleman's knife, but it's more in that vein style-wise, so it doesn't really need jimping on the spine of the blade. But if it had it, it could be something that you could flick off of to have that front flipper. So there is that as well. And the final con for me is the reason why I personally would not own this knife, and it's the reverse tanto design. I'm just not a fan of how it was executed. And I don't mind reverse tantos. I've owned many. And I think if it's designed and executed properly, it can be a very handsome design and a very, very useful blade profile. But this one just doesn't sing to me. I don't think it's ugly by any stretch of the imagination. It just doesn't sing to me. It doesn't tickle me behind the balls, as it were. And for me to spend money on a knife and add it to my collection as large as the collection is, it really does need to give me that little tickle back there and excite me in some way, whether it's the way that it feels, the way the action is, the way that it looks. That is going to weigh heavily into that decision. So that just means it's not for me personally. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the knife overall. Now let's get into the specs. We are looking at let's see here, overall length, 7.7 inches. So it is pretty small, even in its overall length. Your blade length is 3.4 inches. They really maximized the amount of blade length they got into this handle. They did a really, really good job. They're calling it a modified sheep's foot, which that's fine because it does have that curvature down here on the main edge. That's totally fine to consider it a modified sheep's foot. And the more I look at the tip, I would agree because it's not, I would definitely say it's a modified sheep's foot instead of a reverse tanto, because a reverse tanto is really going to be a very, very angular straight edge, not edge, but straight tip up here. And this certainly does have that curve that you would need to be called a sheep's foot. So I'll go with that. Typically, a sheep's foot is going to be a little bit taller unless you're dealing with like a slip joint or something in that size range. So people often confuse Wharncliffe's with sheep's foot, and a lot of times the only difference is going to be the fact that this is not a sharp angle and that this has a curved main edge. So, getting back to things, the steel is M390. Your frame is 6AL4V titanium. All of the hardware on this, for some odd reason, is stainless steel instead of being titanium. That's an interesting choice in this price range. And it is obviously a frame lock, as I've shown you. The detent is ceramic. You have caged ceramic bearings, and it weighs 3 ounces. What I do like is that they report that they are doing a PVD-coated knife on their website and their retailers' information instead of calling it DLC. So many brands call anything that's black DLC, and that's just not correct. This is definitely a PVD. PVD and DLC are processes, so I don't want to confuse anybody here, but they're going to look different. And when you're looking at a true, real DLC, then number one, it's providing a scratch resistance stronger than the steel that it's coating. It will also allow the finish of the material to come through the coating. So that's when you know you have DLC. And this is going to be a black oxide PVD. It's a very matte finish. Very uniform and very clean. They did a really good job of applying the finish. It looks really, really good. And it doesn't get weird and fingerprinty and strange like a lot of the Microtechs have over the past couple of years. The only way that you're going to see any weird streaking or discoloration is like when I first started this video, there was a little bit of oil that had come out of the pivot, and you could kind of see it around the pivot. But it has a nice, clean, uniform, dry look to the black, which is very, very well done. So I think overall, in my personal opinion, I don't exactly remember the number that I saw on the website, and it is assumed by me that that was the full price at one time, and now it's a sale price of $192. At $192, I say again, it is a no-brainer. I think it looks really good. I really like the flat face pivot. I'm a big, big fan of that. Love the knurling on the flipper tab. They did an excellent job there, giving you plenty of grip to be able to make the perfect flip every time without your finger flying off the flipper tab. They did a very, very good job on this design and its execution. It doesn't have any wow factor for me personally. It just doesn't sing to me. It doesn't pop. There's nothing so different and special about it that I go, man, I have got to have that one. So I could just say it's a good, solid knife, and it's well made. I believe if I were right about the price, and by now I have definitely put that number on the screen at least once in the editing process. If it's anywhere near what I thought I had read earlier, then it would be a no for me, because there are just so many other designs out there that excite me tremendously more than this does. And I would rather put my money in those. But I think anybody looking at this and thinking, wow, I really like this design, and this would look great if I'm dressed for the office, or I'm going to church, or I'm going to a funeral, or wherever you may be dressed up or semi-dressed up. I think that this is a wonderful companion for that. For me, as an EDC knife, it just doesn't check all the boxes for me. But I think for the money that's being spent, you've got a good, solid made knife. I see no errors in the manufacturing. I see no glaring errors in the design, except for just my personal preference, and I don't represent everybody, where I would have liked to have had that finger choil. And that's really about it. So I think they did an excellent job. It seems to be, I would think that if this is representative of the other knives from them, that this is definitely a brand to keep an eye on. And if their prices are in line with this, then I think they're a wonderful alternative for an EDC knife that's probably not going to let you down. That's my overall thoughts on the IQL by Quiet Carry. If you have any questions, please put them down below. I'd be happy to answer any for you. And until next time, I'll see you on the next video.